What's up, YouTube? This is Karbach's Bourbon Barrel Hellfighter with Cherries. So this is their Imperial Porter Ale, as you can see, aged in bourbon barrels and brewed with cherries. So it's got a bit of a description, like every Hellfighter bottle. See, pulling out specifics, their Hellfighter Imperial Porter Ale aged in bourbon barrels for several months, and then they added sweet cherries down the road to awaken the fermentation once again. So this was the last Bourbon Barrel Hellfighter release. They have the regular, and then they have some variants. You know, they did vanilla, they've done chocolate, and now they've done cherries. This was originally called Cherries of Fire, part of the Fun series. Same beer, just was, I think, Fun number 6. I never had it back then, but they rebrewed it, and this is basically it. So I've had this version of it before. Like I said, never had Cherries of Fire. Always heard great things about it, but I have had this once before. I actually did a review with my buddies, but it was on his computer, and you know, figured I've got my last bottle and figured I'd just do one myself here. So let's get into it. All right. Whew. Pour this guy out. As you can see, it doesn't pour out too thick. It's got a nice big tan, kind of a light mocha head. It's pretty dark. I'm not really seeing any sort of tinge of you know, red or lighter color at the edge of the glass here. Pretty black, so pours out well. Let's check out the aroma. Definitely getting big cherries. Malt comes through quite a bit. Getting some bourbon, but it's not overwhelming in bourbon, and that's actually more on the mild side, in my opinion. Getting some chocolate as well. The cherries are kind of the big thing. And it kind of comes out more as a, I wouldn't think like fresh cherries or like kind of a pie-like quality. Not really that. It has more of this wine-like presence. A bit more, yeah, kind of more like a sweet red wine is sort of what I'm getting out of this. Yeah, it's pretty much mostly what I'm noticing. But there's a nice big malt character to it as well. So kind of thinking chocolate malt, or kind of a red wine quality from the cherries, and some bourbon. I think it's that cherries mixed with the bourbon kind of gives it that red wine sort of aroma. Something else to it, I'm not really picking out. It's just a little bit odd, but let's check out the taste on this guy. Cheers. Huh. Let me go back for that again. I don't know. It sort of has this feeling, I don't want to say infected, but it sort of has this feeling of if it had been fermented almost with Brett. It's not really funky, and I wouldn't say a funky style of Brett, but more like a fruity style of Brett. It's actually kind of lighter bodied. A bit more carbonation than I expected, or than I would want. And while it has some sweetness to it, of course, from the fact that the base beer is a sweeter beer, high ABV, I think Hellfighter is around 10%. And the bourbon, of course, it has this acidity to it, which is a little, it reminds me of sweet beers that I've had that have started to turn. And I don't know for sure, because I don't want to say it's turning, but at the same time, it just kind of has this feeling like it reminds me of beers that I've had that have started to turn. Especially the cherries being sweet. Now, when I first had this, I don't remember it really being like this. I remember it tasting a lot more like Bourbon Barrel Hellfighter. Maybe not quite as good, but the cherries came out pretty well. It's a little odd. There's some acidity to this that shouldn't be in the beer due to the sweet cherries that they added. Of course, it could be a sweet variety that was more tart. I don't know. There could be bottle variation, but it didn't have this acidity, I felt like, when I had it the first time. It's reminding me a little bit of... Yeah. It's a little odd. It's not quite where I'd want it to be. Feels a little thin. A bit too much carbonation at first. It's not over-carbed, but a bit more than it should have. It does have a bit of that acidity. Now, I prefer beers that are acidic. However, in this kind of style where it's not supposed to be acidic. And it's not like... Because I've had some stouts that have just this dark berry-like quality that almost feels like it has an acidic quality to it, but there weren't even any fruit or anything added. Or some beers like some of the Bourbon County variants, like Backyard or whatever, or Bramble, for some those had some acidic quality from the fruit. However, kind of was it was intended, and it worked really well because the beer was very full-bodied and very sweet, and the bourbon barrels are very... Bourbon County bourbon barrels always very wet and sweet, have that distinct character. If this had more sweetness to it, it might work a little bit, or a fuller body, but it just feels a little off, in my opinion. It's like there's some sweetness from the cherries, and then there's some acid from the cherries that I don't know if it's supposed to be intentional, is the thing. Because I feel like it shouldn't be that acidic. Yeah, because it really kind of dries out. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. So I don't want to go ahead and say that these are turning, but could be some bottle variation. But if you have any of these, I would probably drink them now, because I just don't see this getting any better over time. Anyway, as for a rating, it's not a bad beer. And I'm going to rate it in its current state as this is. I'm probably going to go maybe a 3 out of 5 on this, It's not bad, but I just don't feel like it's where it's supposed to be. So normally, Bourbon Barrel Hellfighter, I think, is a great barrel-aged porter, especially for a local beer. Normally give that at least a 4, 4.25, depending on maybe the batch. But this one's just not working out for me. This bottle, at least. So I'd recommend drinking if you got them. Try it out, see what you guys think. If you're have any of the same kind of experience or whatever, leave a comment. If not, or if so, whatever. But anyway, that's pretty much it for Bourbon Barrel Hellfighter with cherries. So hope you guys have maybe some better experiences with the beer, and that's pretty much it for this episode. So pretty much be it. I've got some cool there's some local IPAs coming out. A very excited review. Pussy Wagon from Brash and Cans. Wheeze the Juice from B52 release is tomorrow. By the time this airs, it'll already release. I'm sure when I get to this video. Very excited for that. So I will post those immediately after reviewing them. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. So you guys take it easy, and cheers.